In this video, we're going to take a look at how we can use Camera Raw to fix some common optical problems you can encounter when shooting digitally. Even though modern lenses are constricted to a very high quality, you may still find that your images can suffer from vignetting, or even the rather nasty sounding chromatic aberration. So if you're not familiar with what this is, then let's find out right now. Though this image looks okay at first glance, if we zoom into the chimney stack on the left here, then you can see exactly what chromatic aberration looks like. This ugly red and cyan fringing is what chromatic aberration is all about, and it's most evident along contrasty edges, especially when the light source is behind your subject. It's caused by the way light interacts with your camera and lens. Now this results in the different wavelengths of light not being focused onto the exact same spot, and this can be at its most exaggerated around the edges of pictures taken with wide-angle lenses. All this science adds up to just one thing, the nasty colour fringing that you can see here. Now you may also encounter a blue or yellow variant that looks equally as nasty. Handily, Camera Raw comes to our rescue with some great tools to remove, or at the very least minimise the effects of chromatic aberration. To access the controls that will let us sort this out, we're going to click on the Lens tab over here. As our picture is suffering with the red and cyan fringing, we're going to use this slider here to correct it. Now if our picture was suffering from blue and yellow fringing, we'd use the slider below, this one here. To fix the problem, it's really a case of trial and error. Move the slider to the left or the right to make the fringing disappear. But be careful not to go too far with your adjustments and make the problem worse. As I have done here, you can see the red is really exaggerated. If I go too far this way, you'll see the same thing happens to the cyan. Here, it looks like a setting of around -30 is going to do the trick. And you can see that things look vastly improved already. You may find it's easier to make your adjustments with the Alt key held down. Now if you move the slider, you'll see the effects of the slider below are hidden, and it can be a little easier to see what effect the adjustments you're making will have. So let's put this back to -30. That's it. That looks pretty good. Lucky CS3 users have the option of letting Camera Raw do the hard work for them. There's a new option called Defringe, which will automate the entire process. So if you do have this option, then give it a try, as it may well save you a lot of time. When you're happy with the adjustments you've made, simply click Open to take the image into Photoshop, where you can carry on working on the image as you would normally. Okay, so that's chromatic aberration well and truly tamed, so let's square up to another common imaging problem. I'll just close this image down and open a new image up. If we take a look at this landscape image, you can clearly see the corners are much darker than the central area of the picture, and this is what we call vignetting. In this instance, it's been caused by using the lens at a wide open aperture, coupled with an extreme wide-angle setting, and if we look at the top of the window here, you can see the evidence, an aperture of f3.5 and a wide-angle setting of 18mm. But it could also be caused by a physical obstruction, like a lens hood or the edge of a filter. Inexpensive lenses are prone to vignetting at these extreme settings, but all is not lost, as it's a simple task to get things looking as they should. As the image looks slightly underexposed, let's begin by increasing the exposure slider to around +1, something like that would do, plus 0.95, and we'll give the shadows a bit of a boost too. Let's take those to around 15 or so. You can see these adjustments have exaggerated the vignetting effect, and it's making our landscape image look a little bit odd. Ideally, what we'd like to see here is a clear, rich blue sky with a nice even tonality. To fix things, we're going to go back to the Lens tab again, so click on the tab here, and we're going to use the vignetting sliders to sort this out. If we move the vignetting slider to the left, it increases the amount of vignetting, which isn't exactly what we want. So what I'm going to do is move the slider to the right. So we pass the 0 point where we started off, and I'm going to keep going to the sweet spot of around 60. And that looks much more natural already. You can fine-tune the effect by using the vignetting midpoint slider here. If I click on that and move it to 100, all the way across to the right, you can see the compensation is confined to the very corners of the image, while a setting of 0 will spread the effect right towards the middle of our picture. In this case, I'm going to go for a setting of around 75. Of course, each image will be different, so experiment to get the best results for your particular photo. Okay, this looks pretty good. Our sky is nice and even now, and much improved. So what I'm going to do is click Open, and the image will be ready to take into Photoshop. Okay, and here's our sorted picture, ready to work on in our regular Photoshop window. But that's not all the vignetting sliders are good for. We can also use them to add creative effects to our pictures. So let's close this image down, and let's open our next image, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to open up the picture called Grey Friars, so click on there, we'll click Open, and here we are back in Camera Raw again. Okay, I think that this shot of a tomb in Grey Friars in Edinburgh will benefit from having a dark vignette added to it. By doing this, we'll concentrate attention on the central part of the image and add a brooding atmosphere to the picture as well. The great thing is, it's so easy to do. What I'm going to do is click on the Lens tab again over here, and then simply slide the vignetting amount slider all the way to the left till it hits -100. And to maximize the effect, click on the midpoint slider and take it all the way to the left to 0. And that's it. You can click the preview box up here and compare the image before and after. If you go to the Adjust tab and then down to the Shadows slider, you can add some quite extreme effects by moving this to the right, like so. If you take it all the way across there, it becomes very, very extreme and rather gothic looking, so probably something around this point is good. Okay, so let's go back to the Lens tab for a second. Now, to create the inverse of this effect and add a light vignette, simply push the vignetting amount slider all the way to the right to +100. And again, by moving the midpoint slider around, you can vary the effect so it's exactly to your liking. Of course, you can create this kind of effect in Photoshop itself with much more control, but it is useful to know that Camera Raw can do these things. Again, as each image is unique, it pays to play around to get the effect that works best for your shot, but little experimentation can really pay off.